The sky above the Wyoming plains was painted in the bruised colors of an approaching storm. The horizon trembled beneath the heavy gray, and the wind howled across the open fields of the Rafter Cross Ranch. It was the kind of morning that promised trouble. Jacob Rains stood on the porch, his hat pulled low, the smell of rain and dust filling his lungs. He'd built his ranch from nothing but sweat and stubbornness. But even a man like him couldn't control fate, especially not when fate came riding in on a black mare, cloaked in secrets. She came just after sunrise. A lone rider, cloaked, face hidden beneath the brim of a hat, horse lathered and trembling. Jacob had seen trouble before, rustlers, outlaws, even the law when it didn't suit him. But nothing about this woman felt ordinary. She rode with the exhaustion of someone running from something, and the fire of someone who didn't intend to be caught. He stepped off the porch, boots crunching on the wet gravel, one hand resting on the handle of his Colt. "You're a long way from town," he said, voice calm but edged with warning. The woman dismounted slowly, her knees shaking. She looked up, rain dripping from the brim of her hat. "I'm looking for Jacob Rains," she said, her voice soft but steady. "You found him," he replied. She hesitated, as if weighing whether to speak or turn back into the storm. Then with trembling fingers she pulled off her hat. Golden hair, streaked with dust and rain, fell across her face, and her blue eyes met his with a defiance that made his chest tighten. "Then I guess you found your mistake," she whispered. Jacob frowned. "You're hurt," he said, noticing the dark stain on her sleeve. "Come inside." "I didn't come for kindness," she murmured, but her body swayed. And before she could protest again, Jacob caught her. Her weight was light but heavy with exhaustion. He carried her inside, laying her on the couch near the hearth, where the fire still smoldered from last night. As he peeled back the damp fabric of her sleeve, he saw the wound and a clean bullet graze, not deep but dangerous if left untreated. "Who did this?" he asked, cleaning the wound with whiskey. She flinched but didn't answer. "Name's Alara," she said after a long silence. "And if you're smart, you'll forget you ever saw me." Jacob looked at her, the fear beneath the iron in her voice. "I'm not in the business of forgetting people who bleed on my floor," he said dryly. The storm outside broke, thunder cracking across the valley. For a while, the only sound inside the cabin was the rain tapping against the windows and the fire, snapping in the hearth. When she finally spoke again, her tone was quieter. "You shouldn't have helped me. You'll regret choosing me." Jacob chuckled softly, adjusting his hat. "Lady, I already regret waiting this long to have someone interesting walk through my door." Alara's eyes darted to his, and uncertain, surprised. She wanted to tell him to let her go, to forget her name, but something in his gaze, unyielding, solid, made her stay quiet. She had been running for weeks, from men who wanted her dead for something she hadn't done, and now, for the first time, she felt still. Hours passed. Jacob gave her food, changed her bandage, and kept the fire alive while the wind screamed outside. She told him fragments, enough to paint a picture of betrayal and fear. A powerful cattle baron's son had framed her for a robbery gone wrong. Now she was wanted, hunted by men who wore badges paid for by his father's gold. Jacob didn't flinch. "Let them come," he said, his voice low but sure. "I've been looking for a fight that matters." When night fell, the storm finally eased. The air smelled of wet earth and pine. Alara stood by the window, her silhouette outlined by moonlight. "You should have turned me in," she said softly. "It's what any sensible man would have done." Jacob smirked. "Never been accused of being sensible. Besides, I figure a woman who rides through hell to survive deserves a second chance." Her lips trembled, caught between gratitude and guilt. "You don't know what you're risking," she whispered. "Men like you get killed for less." Jacob's eyes hardened slightly. "I don't take kindly to men telling me what I can't protect." Outside, the wind died. The stars broke through the clouds like distant lanterns. Somewhere out in the dark, a horse neighed, faint but close. Jacob's hand went instinctively to his gun. "They found you," he said. Alara's face went pale. "You should have let me go." "Too late for that," he said quietly. He blew out the lamp, leaving only the moonlight to guide them. The storm had passed, but the real danger was just beginning. And as the first hoofbeats echoed down the trail, Alara realized with a sinking heart, this rancher hadn't just chosen her. He'd chosen war. The night fell silent, the kind of silence that presses against your ears before chaos breaks loose. The only light came from the moon slicing through the clouds, painting the ranch yard in silver and shadow. Jacob Rains stood at the window, revolver steady in his hand. Ilara was beside him, breath shallow, every muscle tense. She could see the fear behind his calm, not for himself, but for her. Out past the corral, several riders emerged, torches in hand, faces cruel and sharp in the glow. The scarred man in the black duster shouted, "Rains! We're looking for a woman came through here. Blonde, blue eyes. You seen her?" Jacob stepped onto the porch, voice low and even.
"Can't say I have.
"But I've seen a few cowards light fires where they don't belong," the leader sneered. "This ain't your fight. Step aside." Jacob tilted his hat lower. "Thing is, you crossed my land without asking. That makes it my fight." Then came the first gunshot. The barn caught fire, horses screamed, and the night exploded into chaos. Jacob fired back, each shot precise, calm as steel. Ilara ignored his command to stay inside and grabbed a shotgun. "You were supposed to stay put," he shouted. "And let you die alone?" She yelled back, reloading. Smoke thickened. Fire turned the yard into a nightmare of red and gold. She took down one of the riders charging her first kill, and her hands shook, but her eyes stayed sharp. "You're a hell of a woman," Jacob muttered before firing again. Bullets screamed. The scarred leader bellowed, "She's mine, Rains. You can't save her." Jacob's reply was another shot that sent the man diving for cover. But fate demanded a price. A bullet grazed Jacob's side and he staggered. Ilara ran to him, pressing her hands to the wound. "You're hit!" "Just a scratch," he lied. "Listen, there's dynamite in the barn. If the fire reaches it, this whole place'll go up." Her eyes widened. "Then we have to." "No," he rasped, gripping her wrist. "Let it. They want my land? They'll choke on the ashes." Moments later, the barn exploded in a burst of light and fury. The shockwave threw riders off their horses, fire swallowing the night. Ilara shielded Jacob as debris rained down. When the noise faded, only the crackle of burning timber remained. The men were gone. The ranch was broken. But they were alive. She turned to him, tears cutting through the soot. "You fool. You burned everything." Jacob smiled faintly. "Not everything. You're still here." She pressed her forehead to his, trembling. "Why would you do this for me?" He looked at her with quiet certainty. "Because when you showed up, I stopped being alone. And I'd rather lose the world than lose you." When dawn came, sunlight spilled across the ruins of Rafter Cross Ranch. Jacob lay on a cot, pale but alive. Ilara sat beside him, her hand in his. "You could have turned me in," she whispered. "Would have been easier." He smiled. "Yeah, but easier ain't living." She laughed softly, brushing his hair from his eyes. "Still think you'll regret choosing me?" Jacob opened his eyes, that slow, dangerous smile returning. "Maybe, but I already regret waiting this long." Outside, the smoke rose into a golden sky, carrying with it the story of a rancher who defied the world for love, and a woman who finally found a home in the heart of danger. If this story moved your heart, don't just stop here. Subscribe to the channel for more powerful tales of courage, love, and redemption from the wild frontier. Like, share, and comment if you believe that sometimes the riskiest choice is the one worth making. Turn on the bell icon, because the next story might just steal your breath away. Subscribe now and ride with us through the next unforgettable Western legend.